The first snowfall of the season blanketed the mountains in pristine white, and I was grateful for the solitude my chalet offered. Nestled deep in the forest, miles from the nearest town, it was my retreat from the world. I hadn't been up here in months, and the thought of a weekend alone by the fire, with nothing but the sound of crackling wood and the whisper of falling snow, was exactly what I needed. But as I unlocked the door and stepped inside, something felt off. The air was colder than it should have been, and there was a faint, unfamiliar scent, not unpleasant, but distinctly unearthly. The room looked untouched at first glance, but as I set my bag down, I noticed subtle signs that someone had been here. A blanket was draped over the couch in a way I didn't recognize, and the woodpile by the fireplace was smaller than I had left it. I frowned, scanning the room. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing in the empty chalet. No response. Cautiously, I moved through the space, checking the small kitchen and bedroom. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the feeling lingered. It wasn't until I reached the back room, a storage area I rarely used, that I saw it. A glimpse of movement, quick and fleeting, like a shadow retreating into the corner. "Who's there?" I demanded, my heart pounding. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, which turned out to be a broomstick, and approached slowly. As I stepped closer, I saw them, a woman and a child, huddled together behind an old shelf. But they weren't human. The woman's skin shimmered faintly, a pale, opalescent blue that seemed to shift in the light. Her eyes were large and luminous, a soft violet hue that glowed faintly even in the shadows. The child, who couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 by human standards, looked similar, clutching at the woman's leg and staring at me with wide, frightened eyes. "Please," the woman said, her voice trembling but melodic, like a song carried on the wind. "Don't be afraid." I lowered the broomstick, though my pulse was still racing. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice unsteady. "What are you doing here?" The woman hesitated, glancing down at the child before meeting my gaze. "My name is Elira. This is my daughter, Nisara. We mean you no harm. We didn't think anyone would come here." I blinked, trying to process what I was seeing. "You're not from around here, are you?" Elira shook her head, her expression weary. "No, we come from a place far from here. Our vessel was damaged, and we had no choice but to land nearby. We found your home and sought shelter. I'm sorry for intruding. We had nowhere else to go." Despite the surreal nature of the situation, there was something about Elira's voice, her demeanor, that put me at ease. She didn't seem dangerous, just scared and desperate. "How long have you been here?" I asked. "A few weeks," she admitted. "We've tried to be careful, to leave no trace." "I didn't think you would return so soon." I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling slowly. "Okay, let's take this one step at a time. Are you hungry? Thirsty?" Her eyes widened slightly in surprise, then softened. "We've managed with what we could find, but yes." "Thank you." I nodded, gesturing for them to follow me into the main room. Nisara clung to her mother's side, her gaze darting around nervously as they moved. I prepared some food and set it on the table, watching as they ate cautiously, clearly unfamiliar with the human dishes, but too hungry to care. As they ate, Elira began to explain. Her people were explorers, traveling across galaxies in search of knowledge and understanding. But not all species welcomed their presence. They had been ambushed by a hostile force, and in the chaos, their ship had been severely damaged. Elira had managed to escape with Nisara, but they had been stranded on Earth ever since. "I've been trying to repair our vessel," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But the technology is beyond what this world has. I don't have the resources I need. Why didn't you ask for help?" I asked. She gave me a sad smile. "Would you have believed me?" Humans fear what they don't understand. I couldn't risk it, not with Nisara to protect. I couldn't argue with that. Even now, as I sat across from them, I was struggling to fully comprehend the reality of their existence. But looking at Nisara, who had finally begun to relax, her small hands clutching a cup of water, I couldn't imagine turning them away. "What if I help you?" I said suddenly, surprising even myself. Alira's eyes widened. "You would do that?" "Why?" "Because it's the right thing to do," I said simply. "You're stranded here. You have a child to take care of. If there's a way to get you home, I want to help." Her expression softened, and for the first time, I saw tears glimmering in her luminous eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't know how to repay you." "Let's start with fixing your ship," I said with a small smile. Over the next few weeks, my quiet life in the chalet transformed. Alira showed me where her ship was hidden, deep in the forest. It was a sleek, metallic craft partially buried in snow, its once smooth surface marred by scorch marks and dents. She guided me through the repairs, her knowledge of advanced technology both fascinating and overwhelming. I scavenged what I could from nearby towns, often under the guise of collecting supplies for projects at the chalet. Meanwhile, Nisara grew bolder, her initial shyness giving way to a curious, playful nature. She loved exploring the woods around the chalet, her laughter ringing out like music as she discovered the simple joys of Earth. Watching her, I was reminded of how much we take for granted. As the weeks turned into months, a bond formed between us. Alira and I shared stories of our worlds, our lives, our struggles. She spoke of the beauty and wonder of her home, and I told her about the simplicity and resilience of life on Earth. We were from different worlds, but we found common ground in our shared humanity. Finally, the day came when the ship was ready. Alira stood in the clearing, her expression a mix of relief and sadness as she surveyed the repaired vessel. "You've done so much for us," she said, turning to me. "More than I could have ever asked for. How can I thank you?" I shook my head. "You don't need to thank me. Just promise me you'll get home safely." She smiled, a bittersweet expression. "I promise." Nisara ran up to me, throwing her small arms around my leg. "Thank you," she said, her voice bright and sincere. "I'll miss you." I crouched down, ruffling her silver hair. "I'll miss you too, kiddo. Be good for your mom, okay?" She nodded, her glowing eyes wide and solemn. As they prepared to board the ship, Alira paused and looked back at me. "If we ever find our way back to this part of the galaxy, you'll know where to find me," I finished smiling. With a final nod, she stepped into the ship and the hatch closed behind her. I watched as the vessel rose into the sky, its sleek form disappearing into the stars. The clearing fell silent once more, but I didn't feel alone. They were gone, but they had left something behind, a sense of connection, of wonder, and the reminder that kindness could bridge even the vastest distances between worlds. And as I stood there, gazing up at the night sky, I couldn't help but hope that one day I'd see them again.